Hi, everyone. It's my privilege to welcome you to this wonderful event to celebrate the completion of the 10th cohort of CSH SpeakUp Advocates. My name is Ann English, and I've had the good fortune of working with over 90 fantastic individuals who have completed the SpeakUp program over the past 8 years. The Corporation for Supportive Housing is a national nonprofit community development finance institute working to effect system change in the housing and homelessness sector in communities across the country. And CSH recognizes the importance of including people with firsthand knowledge of the experiences and interventions at the center of our efforts. CSH Speak Up is a year-long journey of discovery and community building, which supports individuals with lived experience of homelessness to examine the systems and circumstances which impacted their housing instability and the people and programs that help them. By reclaiming their stories of heartbreak and resilience and ultimately challenging the dominant narrative about homelessness, they become educators, advocates, and leaders in the fight to end homelessness. The individuals you'll hear from today are the first to complete the program virtually from beginning to end, something we were unsure how to do a year ago. And it's a testament to the dedication of the entire program, advocates, volunteer coaches, that we were able to pull it off. Our program staff and volunteers routinely go above and beyond, and this year was exceptionally challenging. I want to call out the names of our wonderful coaches: Callie Ott, Dave Holmes, Tiffany Yvonne Cox, Kari Wyatt, Stacy Swift, Terrell DeLuz, Emily Nelson, Mariana Carpenter, Karen Foreman, and Vicki Whipple for their huge hearts and spirited commitment. And I also want to thank our longstanding volunteers, Wendy Levin, Marilyn Wells, and finally some truly amazing staff, Dove Presnall, James Arangi, and Chloe Kinman. Today's program will proceed as usual with each advocate introduced by their coach and telling their story. We'll then hear closing remarks from an alumni advocate. But before we begin, we'll hear a few words from a systems partner that has supported this work since the beginning. Please join me in welcoming Elise Buick.
Hi, my name is Elise Buick, and I'm the president and CEO of United Way of Greater Los Angeles. It is my great honor to be here and to congratulate the 10th graduating class of the Corporation for Supportive Housing Speak Up program. I wanted to be here to express my deepest gratitude and respect for all that you do in sharing your stories to truly transform the world. At United Way, we believe that change is possible when people can see the transformation that people go through, and we can open people's hearts and minds to the possibilities. The Speak Up graduates do that in an amazing way, and I'm just in awe of your courage and your vulnerability and your willingness to share your personal story for the greater good. So on behalf of the United Way, thank you so much for all that you do to be a part of the change that we all seek, which is to ensure that our most vulnerable neighbors all have access to safe and affordable housing, and that we can all have neighborhoods where we all thrive together. We truly could not do this work without you. So again, congratulations and thank you on behalf of the United Way.
Good afternoon. My name is Dove Presnall, and I am the clinical consultant for the Los Angeles Speak Up program. If I had to pick 3 words to describe our next speaker, they would be faithful, hopeful, and loving. Triana Wilson is from the group that started just before the pandemic and was one of the few members of that group who were able to complete the program despite all the curveballs the last year and a half have thrown at us. As an essential worker, Triana put her life on the line every day, helping to ensure that the goods we all needed could find their way across the country. Whenever she possibly could, she would faithfully call into our workshops from wherever she was, be that her home or the cab of her truck at a rest stop. I watched her face many challenges, daunted, but always holding on to and sharing hope with others. She never gave up, and as you will hear, this was no accident. As Triana shares her story, you too will see that, despite too many injustices that would have flattened most of us, Triana has faithfully returned again and again to her commitments to love and hope for herself and for those around her. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Triana Wilson. You're gonna love her.
As a little girl, I yearned for my mother's love, the same kind of love she showed my sister. After all, I was the baby of the family. Yet, she always had a way of letting me know how pretty my sister was and that I was the ugly and fat one. It wasn't before long I began to believe her, because to me, her words were like gold. My name is Triana Wilson, and I am a CSH SpeakUp advocate. My mother's rejection and unwillingness to show me love led to so much pain. I was fondled by family members at the age of 8. I was molested at 12 years old and pregnant at 13 by my stepfather. That led to the first of many abortions. My mother's lack of love led for me to look for love in all the wrong places. At 14, I ran away. At 15, I became pregnant by my boyfriend, only to be rejected by him too. At 16, I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, whom my boyfriend also rejected. I was a single parent at 16, and I felt so alone. I was introduced to drugs at the age of 20, cocaine being the drug of my choice. I slept on park benches, couches, and in shelters. I stole, lied, and cheated. I continued having children, and though I told myself I would never be like my mother, choosing her addiction in men over us, I was just like her. Before long, I had lost custody of all 3 of my sons, and this was just devastating. It was too much to bear. Then my 4th son died of SIDS at just 1 month old. I knew I couldn't bear to lose another son, and I needed help. That's when I was introduced to God through Victory Outreach Church, a rehab program for ex-drug addicts, prostitutes, and gang members. I was able to live there for a little over 3 years. I went through the program, which included detox, religion, re-entry into society, and skills for living on your own. I'm so grateful for all I was taught there. In the 3rd year, I got a Section 8 voucher, and I had to find my own place. It wasn't always easy. At times, I had to jump through hoops to get the voucher accepted. And I even had to spend 2 months living in my car in Santa Monica. But someone suggested I might have better luck with the voucher in Lancaster, California. Fortunately, I did. And one day, I was at the Housing Authority to do my annual 8 recertification, and I happened to notice a flyer on a bulletin board, and it said something about FSS. Curious, I asked about it. FSS stands for Family Self-Sufficiency. And I was told that someone would contact me. Who knew that this would change my life? FSS is a 4-year program that helps you become more financially independent. It helps you achieve home ownership. It provides opportunities for you to build your own business. Not only do you learn all sorts of money management skills, like cleaning up your credit and understanding loan fees and how to save money for down payments, but the program matches whatever amount of money you are currently paying for rent, and it puts it away in an escrow account for you. When you graduate the program, the money is yours to put towards your future dreams. I have been on Section 8 for over 20 years, and all I could think about is how different my life might have been if I had only known about FSS sooner. I just didn't know. We need to know that programs like this exist. I was blessed with a wonderful mentor, Janet Bodie, who guided me every step of the way. She handed me a piece of paper one day and told me to write down the things that I desired to achieve. So I knew I wanted to own my own business. I knew I wanted to own my own home one day, so I wrote that down. So now one of the criteria to graduate the program was to get my certificate, which I did. I graduated from FSS program in November 2019, and I was handed a check. I was overwhelmed, with emotion. That check went right toward me building my trucking business. And now I own my own company and I am thriving driving a 73-foot tractor trailer semi. And the money that I'm earning with my business, I'm putting down to buy my own home one day, something I hope to do within this year to come. In September 2020, I handed in my Section 8 voucher. I felt overjoyed, a bit frightened, and grateful. Grateful for the stepping stone that it allowed all these years. And now I'm moving forward. As I said a lot of times, we look for love in all the wrong places. But I have finally found love in the people and in the programs that have helped me to get to where I am today. And importantly, I found it from within. My sons and my nephews are now back in my life, and I'm able to be the aunt, the mother that I truly desired to be.
Hi, my name is Stacy Swift. I am a CSH SpeakUp coach, and it is my honor to introduce the one and only John Christian. I have been working with John for about a year now, and I can confidently say that he has taught me much more than I think I've been able to teach him. He is wise, reflective, insightful, incredibly articulate, so much so that I've had to have a dictionary next to me to consult, because he'll say a word and I'll think, what is that word and where did he get that word? That's John. So I am now going to hand it over to the expert in the field, as only someone with lived experience in homelessness can be an expert. So without further ado, John Christian.
I'm John Christian. I'm a CSH SpeakUp advocate. I became homeless in 1988 at the age of 18. I guess one might say I was a perfect candidate. I grew up in a very dysfunctional family. There was love, but it wasn't unconditional. My stepdad would often need perfection, and when any of us couldn't produce this expectation, it was known to everyone in the house. Needless to say, there was a lot of yelling and hitting from him, and not one of us was immune to his tantrums. I'm also a sexual abuse survivor. I've had 7 different attackers, 2 of which were only one time. The rest were multiple times, spanning the years from age 5 until I was 12. I kept this to myself for the most part, and that may very well be the reason I was so rebellious toward authority and misunderstood by my parents, siblings, girlfriends, children, classmates, teachers, doctors, the police, or anyone else who came in contact with me. After a few years of being homeless, I began to find ways to configure and normalize the functions that most homeless people take to task on a daily basis. A typical day for me consisted of waking up, going to the soup kitchen for breakfast, waiting in line for said breakfast, waiting in line for my mail, waiting in line for a shower, hopefully getting some clean socks and underwear, waiting in line for a lunch ticket, waiting in line for lunch. After this, I was all about pain management, which is to say I would self-medicate for the rest of the day. My addiction to drugs has shifted during the 25 years of homelessness that I survived. Sometimes it was alcohol, sometimes weed, sometimes crack, sometimes crystal meth, sometimes heroin, sometimes PCP, and sometimes more than one of these at a time. A lot of days this consumed me as I was determined to escape from my reality as a homeless person, and as a lost son, as a hurting brother, as a loving father, and as a fallen angel. I would use until I could forget that I was different from everyone else, and then I would use some more. The last 20 years of my homelessness looked just like that. It was a blueprint in my day, and I was stuck. If not for the love and understanding of some people at Housing First and Union Station Foundation, I would have died this way. I guess that whichever higher power I prayed to saw fit for me to continue this journey into this lifetime for a reason. But I wasn't thinking this way when I joined SpeakUp. I was still stuck in my homeless routine of eating breakfast and lunch and getting high the rest of the day. I was having problems with my neighbors. I was so scared of this new environment that I couldn't leave my apartment for fear of violence and or someone breaking into my place. When I did manage to leave, I would often leave for a few weeks and go back to Pasadena and sleep outside and party with my homeless friends down there. I didn't know this at the time, but I was just trying to ease my pain, which I can only describe as a steady ache in my chest. It's been there since I can remember, just an uncomfortable tightness that persists. I've never felt comfortable. I could never seem to feel how happy other people look. I never fit in. I isolated myself during my childhood, and I only got better at it as I aged. But the people in SpeakUp wouldn't let me isolate. Unbeknownst to some is the support I received while sitting at home doing nothing. And one of you will invariably call out of the blue. I've had hours of conversation with some of my classmates and coaches, and this is the part I truly appreciate. Because it just seems that when you do call, I'm having difficulty somewhere and you have been able to help me get past it. The benefits of SpeakUp for me are tremendous. I've been more outgoing than I've ever been, more gracious, more loving to my kids, more attentive to my own true needs. I'm no longer on drugs and I am in therapy. I am under a doctor's care, as all these years of torturing myself with the pain of my past have caused enough damage that I now have chemical imbalances. I take prescriptions to lift and stabilize my serotonin levels. I've been calling myself mentally disabled, among other not so nice things, for years. But it's actually just chemicals in our brains. And I found that by properly taking my medication, I'm not mentally disabled at all. I found some talents that I either forgot about or didn't know I had. I found a voice. It's mine. And in writing my story, I found a healing and a comfort that I've never known. And this is why I'm not only housed, but I'm drug-free. I'm a friend to others. I'm a father to my kids. I'm kind to animals, strangers, my friends, my family, and kind to myself as well. In closing, I would like to tell you all that you truly mean more to me than a lot of things. This will change as I grow. The goal is to unfilter myself so that all people will have the same value as you all who are sitting here with me for the past year do today and have for quite some time. I love you all as unconditionally as you could ever want, as you have loved me. I might be crying by now, and if I am, then some of you might be crying with me. Not because you saw me grow, but because you saw that I am watching myself grow, that I recognize my own worth and potential as it pertains to myself and to the rest of the world. Someone like me could come from being suicidal and homicidal to being here right now and telling you all listening today that the unmistakable truth is that I love my life. This is a minor miracle because I've just never had that. So thank you all so very much. I could go on for hours and you all know it, but it would be rude to my fellow classmates who are also graduating today. My name is John Christian. I am a CSH SpeakUp advocate. Thank you for letting me share.
Hi, my name is Callie Ott, and I am a CSH SpeakUp coach. If I could choose one word to describe Gloria B. Johnson, it would be resilient. The definition of resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness, or the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape. If anyone can recover from difficulties or spring back, it's Gloria. A majority of our Zoom meetings, I would roll out of bed, clinging to my coffee, and just wonder if I had enough emotional energy to show up for the day. Then I would see Gloria on the call, and most of the time she was calling in from a hospital bed with her phone in her lap, completely focused and ready to share her story. Every once in a while she would have to pause or mute because a nurse or a doctor would come in. I literally don't know anyone else who would have shown up meeting after meeting with an IV in their arm. She never complained once. Half of the time I had no idea she was sick or even in pain. I don't know about you, but if I was in the hospital, I would 100% use that as an excuse to miss any meeting. But not Gloria. She showed up and participated in every single session. I would usually send Gloria a text or a private message. You know, if you're not feeling up to it, you don't have to be here and share your story today. And she would always respond, I want to be here. Her strength and dedication inspired me on a whole new level. But it isn't just her strength that amazes me. It's her intelligence. It's her compassion. It's the way she lends a voice and a hand to everyone else around her. I truly believe that Gloria's purpose is to tell her story and to help others that are struggling. She is a light in this world, and even though we've technically never met in person, I feel like I've been blessed with her presence every time we speak. It is with great honor that I get to introduce this CSH SpeakUp advocate, Gloria Johnson.
Is it possible to still be fat and yet homeless? Before you answer, let me tell you a little bit about my journey. I grew up on the tough streets of Long Beach during the heart of the crack epidemic to a young 14-year-old mother and a 50-year-old father. My mom became addicted to crack by the age of 18, and she spent the remaining of her life going in and out of jail, giving birth to 7 more kids, staying seriously addicted to drugs, and experiencing homelessness, sleeping behind dumpsters and encampments until she was found bleeding on the side of a street with stage 4 oral cancer. I remember hearing, "You'll end up just like your mother on drugs with a gang of babies." I tried to work hard to make that statement untrue. I was raised by a disabled, bedridden grandmother who loved me just as any mother would. She was my everything. She passed away when I was 12, and then unfortunately I got thrown into a world without having anyone that truly wanted or loved me. All the other kids in the household had somewhere to go, yet no one wanted me. By default, my uncle had no choice but to take me in after living with my continuation school secretary. The catch was his wife wasn't fond of me, which led to constant fights and abuse. My uncle ended up kicking me out several times, with the last time being when I was 15 years old. Luckily, a family friend agreed to become my foster mother, and in return, I helped around the house and babysat to show my gratitude. I got good grades and even completed the certified nursing assistant program by the 11th grade, and I was determined to have some way out planned by graduation. And by the end of the first semester of my senior year, I found that I was pregnant with my first son, De'Aaron. And yet another great news, I completed the 12th grade early. Sadly, my foster mom was so mad and disappointed in me getting pregnant, she became so mean, forcing me to move out to San Diego to sleep on the floor of my cousin's crowded house with 11 other people until I got a job working at the hospital as a nurse assistant, making a whooping $13 an hour. And it was enough to get my very own apartment with a roommate, and I had my very own place at the age of 18. I worked up until a few days before I gave birth and went back 1 week after a cesarean section with staples still in my stomach to earn enough money to buy the basic items I needed for my son. I transitioned to work in home care, and while I was 8 months pregnant with my second son, Devin, I got a call that shook me to the core. I found out that my son De'Aaron got ran over and drugged by a car and sustained a traumatic brain injury at the tender age of 13 months. This would eventually lead to him being mentally delayed for life. I became a young mother of under 20 with 2 babies 14 months apart, one which is disabled, and raising them on my very own. On top, I carried the deep guilt for having to work while my son sustained an injury that would impact him for life, just trying to keep a roof over our heads. Shortly after that, I got into an unsafe, violent relationship. The only way I felt I can escape was to move back to LA. I lived with my foster mom until she wanted us to leave. I slept on vermin and roach-infested couches and floors, dragging my kids from pillar to post until it became way too much. I had to send my kids away so they could live some sort of stable life while I was working hard to get us another apartment. Finally, I got an apartment. We had no fridge or furniture. We slept on the floor and used our ice chest for months. During this time, a good friend of mine named Tanya signed me up for low-income housing wait list, in which I was in great need for, and the waiting game started. I made a foolish move by loaning a large amount of money to a family member who did not pay me back, which put me behind on my rent, causing me to become homeless again. This time, both of my boys were older and my friends weren't as giving. We had nowhere to go. I tried shelters just to find out that they didn't have sleeping accommodations that could fit my large body mass, not allowing me the space I needed to raise a disabled child. Plus, the cots did not hold more than 250 pounds. I was much bigger than that. And that was so embarrassed and mad at myself for letting myself get so big that I couldn't even stay in a shelter. So I slept in my car, in garages, and other unsafe places. And at my lowest moment, I got a call that my name came up for housing. It was a break I so needed, and permanent supportive housing that offered after-school programs and events for my son. Although it was in South LA, the housing opportunity gave me a very much needed dose of stability, and was able to cut back on working 60 hours a week so I could focus on obtaining my college degree and my oldest son's medical needs. I was finally able to focus on my health, and during my career, I have housed 150 individuals who are high barrier find housing, people that look just like me, people who needed to navigate the system, and I'm proud to say that I helped them achieve those goals. I am a resilient survivor, a great parent, a productive member of society who is now an expert on life. And lastly, my name is Gloria Johnson, and I'm a CSH SpeakUp advocate.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Yvonne Cox.
And I'm Kari Wyatt.
And we are CSH SpeakUp coaches.
We've had the pleasure for the last several months to help LA get her story down on paper.
Man, it was such a unique and incredible process. I have to say that I always get more out of this process, I think, than the advocate does. She taught me compassion. She taught me empathy. She taught me how to be much more of an open individual and listen in a different way than I haven't in the past.
And to really accept a unique vision of what one's life is and can be.
Yeah, so usually I say sit back, but I'm going to need y'all to lean forward and really hop on this ride, this journey, as you listen to LA's story.
This is LA, CSH SpeakUp, storytelling advocate. Poor, dark-skinned black woman from Skid of Skid Row to Skid Row, from Hollywood to Glitterland. Poor, dark-skinned black woman from Skid of Skid Row to Skid Row, from Hollywood to Glitterland. Beauty to the streets, beauty to the king. Diamonds, Sugar, Foxy, Simone. Whoa. L.A. the princess. Where's the love, baby? Now, there was something that L.A. the princess loved almost as much as she loved her diamonds. I must fix this, I cried, L.A. the princess, flinging them over the trees. L.A. the princess pulled a hand full of diamonds out of her bag. A hand full of diamonds. The only breaks you get are the ones you take. LA's poor, dark-skinned black woman living in a Los Angeles housing project who, pushed to the edge, resort to violence to escape poverty and this searing, intimate, and action-packed look at real life on America's mean streets. Upgrade, Simone. Upgrade, Sugar. Upgrade, Foxy. Upgrade, Foxy J. L.A. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Terrell Deleuze, and I'm a CSH SpeakUp coach. I've been a part of this program for over 2 years now. It's been an amazing journey, meeting so many inspiring individuals, from advocates to coaches to Ann English to everyone who helped make this program possible. The advocate that I will be introducing is an amazing gentleman. He's a father. He is a husband. He is someone who moved from another country and planted his 2 feet in the soil and is ready to do the work. He is really into helping others, and I think you will be blown away by his story. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Mr. Tony Moreno. Please put your hands together for this gentleman.
So my story starts about 50 years ago, and you might don't know where is that. It's actually a big country in Eastern Europe, and it's the size of the Texas. And the time when I was born, my parents worked a lot, and I embraced being alone and how to be resourceful young. My life changed completely in 2011 when I met my wife. And family, it's everything for us. We share our love. We want to have our kids, but we can't get pregnant. And that was devastating, but we don't want to quit. And this time I work in law and help people in my country to fight injustice, but it comes with a price. In the time of the Russian invasion in Ukraine, I was captured and severely beaten and get a brain damage. Find myself in prison. That was serious, and I know as soon as I may bail out, I have to leave the country. Irony was, in the same month, my wife breaking news what I gonna be a father, and I have not so much money, but a lot of faith, and I move forward, and with help of my friends, I get a refugee in Pasadena, in a house, a friend of mine, and as soon as I get situated, I send for my wife. 4th of July, she gave birth to our daughter. That's a blessing. We live American dream. And that was really good, but soon a friend of mine passed away. And house went to foreclosure, we become officially homeless. We had to move. I got a job. We purchased an old RV, and I got a job. I was able to park RV in the back of the business. In the daytime, I attended classes in Pasadena City College, and life kept going. And it was very end of 2018. Then I lost this job and the place what we already started calling home. And on top of that, my wife tell me what I'm gonna be father again. And that was kind of really difficult, but that was not enough. We was on the road, and next day our RV engine blew out and we stuck. And that was a Christmas with the police visiting us and say we have to call 211 and get assistance with the housing. We called, and we assigned with the manager Ladiva Prim at Union Station Homeless Services. And they assigned us with Mel. She take care about our daily needs, and Becky, our again worker, help us with the job development. In the Department of Public Social Services help us to get hotel vouchers, and Behavioral Health Center helped me with my PTSD. We were enrolled in Family Solution Program, and in a way that was our new beginning. and I want to bring hope to the people who might feel hopeless. The newcomers who came to this country in search of safe place, foster youth who have no family or home, and individuals with mental health issues, everyone who wants the chance to be human and reestablish their life. I like the quote from Arnold Schwarzenegger. The United States gave me everything I have, and I believe it is my duty to repay the kindness of this country every day of my life. So me and my wife, we are thankful for all the services. We want to give back, and one day we want to open our home to the foster children. We know how important it is for children and families to have a home. So I'm a man, I'm a husband, I am a father, and I'm a hard worker. There's many people out there like me. Let us not judge. Everyone deserves their right to be housed. It's their human rights. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mariana Carpenter, and I'm a volunteer coach at CSH. Today, I have the honor of introducing you to Lisa B. She has a gift for turning every environment into a good time. She brings joy and laughter everywhere she goes. She is a gem of a human being and has a very inspiring life story. Today, you get to hear some of that story. Welcome, the one and only Lisa B.
It's me, Lisa B. As you listen to my story and the story of the other advocates, ask yourself, was it the choices that determine the circumstances, or do circumstances decide our choices? This may change your mind on what truly causes homelessness and what we all can do to achieve an ending. This part of my story is called The Black Mary Tyler Moore with Stretch Marks. For those who are too young to remember, please feel free to Google her. Remember when you were a kid and the teacher asked you what you wanted to be when you grew up? Some said a football player or a teacher. I wanted to be the Queen of the United States. We had been learning about England, and she had diamonds everywhere. But one thing I never heard was a kid say, I want to be homeless. It wasn't long when the reality of becoming Queen of the United States was just in my young imagination. So I chose to work on my education, and I worked in technologies for companies like American Express and IBM. One day I chose to change my circumstances, and I moved from Phoenix to Los Angeles. However, due to the high costs of living in LA, I chose to have a roommate with 2 kids. One day I was driving to work, and my eyesight chose to stop working. I ran into the back of a Park City bus. The paramedics took me to a private hospital. Too bad I couldn't see how cute they were. The doctor in the emergency room chose not to help me and said, you're a diabetic, and it's just one of those things, and suggested that I go to the nearest county hospital. You see, I had chosen to pay for a roof over my head, food and transportation. There was no money left for medical insurance, not even Obamacare. That night I prayed to God and thanked him for being alive, that my eyesight had returned in one eye. Unfortunately, when I looked through both eyes, I saw double vision. I needed to cover one eye so I wouldn't fall. Instead of wearing an eye patch and looking like a pirate, I took my sunglasses and put a Band-Aid over it. This is not sexy. The next morning, I evaluated my circumstances. I couldn't work anymore unless there was a strip club willing to hire a middle-aged, half-blind Black woman who loved to eat cake. I chose to leave all my things so my roommate could sell it to pay next month's rent. or their circumstances would be dire. I packed a backpack with toiletries, clothes, a laptop, and a good wig, and I went straight to Olive View Medical Center. I was again in the emergency room. The person in intake said they couldn't help me because I didn't have a California ID. I was very frustrated. And for the first time, I said the H word. I am homeless. I think she thought I was crazy and told me to wait for a doctor. I waited for hours, but during those hours, I noticed that no one was paying attention to the people in the waiting room. This place had security, clean bathrooms, and a cafeteria. And I chose to make this my new home. The final part of my story is called Homeless Lives Matter. During the day at my new home, I would look around for any department that could help me. Unfortunately, my choices for shelters was for women with children, victims of domestic violence, women with mental issues, or people dealing with drug abuse. So at night, I would find empty offices, hide under the desk, and I would use the pillow, my backpack as a pillow. I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and I would sneak into the sleep disorder building and take showers. Finally, I received the call that all homeless people look for. Maybe my circumstances were going to change after all. I had a meeting with a lady named Molly Lowry, the founder of Housing Works. Housing Works is an organization that helped the chronically homeless find permanent housing. I told her my story. She got me a motel room. Okay, maybe it wasn't a 5-star, it was a 1, but it was much better than my current circumstances. She took me to the DMV to get my California ID, the Department of Social Services, so I could get food stamps and some financial aid, and a Section 8 voucher that was project-based. No matter what your circumstances are, you can choose to do the following to help the homeless. You can act. You can give homeless people on the streets blankets, socks, and bottled water. You can turn the label around and put information on it that they can call and people that can help them. You can vote. No matter what party you're from, assist in passing homeless initiatives like AB 71. You can give your input to USICH on the federal strategic plan to prevent and end homelessness. You can email or call Gavin Newsom if he still has a job at 916-445-2841 to ask him for $1 billion of the $5.2 billion that's been allocated for rental assistance to help the homeless. Also, please ask him why I didn't receive my $1.5 million. I did get vaccinated. And finally, and most importantly, love. Love your neighbor as yourself. Remember, homeless people are your neighbor too. I don't wear those Band-Aid shades anymore. I chose to be the Black Queen of the United States, and I found other places to wear diamonds. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Foreman, coach with CSH SpeakUp program. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce Michelle Fennell to you all today, aka Apple Michelle. It has been a pure joy working with Michelle. We actually started working together a couple of years ago, and then we had to take a break from the program, and then when we were ready to start back up again, it was the pandemic. So we've been meeting the last year over Zoom, and I'm beyond proud and inspired and impressed by Michelle's commitment to the program and ultimately her commitment to herself. and her passion for wanting to help people. So without further ado, please welcome the lovely and inspiring Michelle Fennell.
As you all are aware, homelessness is a real serious thing, especially when you're struggling and you have children. In 2014, the domestic violence from my boyfriend was so severe that I was forced to leave my home and everything that I had. We moved to a beautiful place called Sonora, but after 3 years, I was forced to move back to LA because once again, the city had limited resources for me and my children. In 2017, Skid Row shelters were my only option for housing. So there we were, once again, with no resources for myself and my children. I had no choice but to leave them with different family members. The shelter was not what I expected. They treated me like I was a prisoner, and I have never been to prison before. But that was my first prison experience. They had long-ass lines, people begging for food, and I stayed in a dorm with like 500 other women, and the conditions there were horrible. It was group showers. There was no dignity or privacy. And it smells. The unsanitized rooms, the mental health for the women were screaming in the middle of the night. I was having a total breakdown. At the shelter, they kicked us out at 5 a.m. and we couldn't come back until 6 p.m. and lights were out at 10. I was so depressed. And as a woman, I was like, where am I? It's 2017. There should be a better way. This is definitely mistreatment for women. And homelessness made me so depressed. Not being able to support myself and my kids and take care of my responsibilities. And it was a lot of pressure on me at the time. And I didn't want it to live anymore. I just felt so small. I was mad at God. I was mad at my family. Disappointed at being a disappointment to myself. Not being as successful as I pictured myself, and I was wondering why. I wanted to end it all. I went to the 4th Street Bridge downtown LA, and I tried to jump off to commit suicide. But before I could do it, this homeless man approached me. He came out of nowhere, and he was just like, don't do it. You have much to live for. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the hell could he be in this predicament and tell me that? He had way less than me. But he stayed by my side and he encouraged me. And I knew that was God walking and talking with me. I decided to accept my situation and accept my homelessness. I accepted that I didn't have everything under control, and it's okay to let God take control. And with that, doors started opening up for me. And as I mentioned at the time, the shelter was unacceptable. So I found a place to take a shower at the VOA, the Volunteers of America. The showers are really nice, and I was there at 5 a.m., the first one in line every morning. They hooked me up with mental health. I got a mental health counselor who told me about this program called ARC. It's a anti-recidivism coalition. I started going to ARC every day. They had a comfy couch. They help people like me who are homeless and was on probation. And they asked me if I was homeless one day as I was hanging out, and it was hard for me to admit that I was. And thankfully, they were able to help me with resources, and I was able to get permanent housing and affordable housing in 2017. After 3 long years, I was finally housed. I got the keys in my hand. I opened the door. I fell to my knees. I kissed the floor. I literally jumped up and down and prayed. And I was so grateful in that moment. All the things that I've been through and how people treat you because you're homeless and they make you feel less than because you're living on Skid Row. So the people at ARC, they asked me what my hobbies were and what I wanted to be. I told them I was a rapper, and they helped me with my artistry. And in 2019, I got the opportunity to write my own monologue called Ready, Set, a short film based on my experiences and what I went through. And now, this is 2021. I'm still housed, and I'm so ready to give back and encourage others. Being a Speak Up advocate gives me so much pride, and hopefully hearing from my experiences that it will open doors for others. Because with those difficulties, I can help. Nothing happens overnight. I had to take baby steps, and although I might hit some dead ends in life, I never gave up. And I just want to encourage people not to never give up, because I found the right people because I never gave up. I am Michelle Fennell. This is my story. I am a CSH SpeakUp advocate. Thank you.
Lindsay Dennis is authentic, brave, empathetic, honest, direct, loving, funny, and smarter than most people I know. Her story has taught me so much about mental illness, but also wellness and resiliency. Lindsay and I hit it off right away. We both have very bad dogs who we adore, and we're both very passionate about public policy. I truly believe Lindsay is made for policy work. She leads with her heart and her head and knows the right decision isn't always the easy one. I am so proud to introduce you to someone I'm thrilled to know, Lindsay Dennis.
I'm Lindsay Dennis, and I'm a CSH SpeakUp advocate. Every year at Christmas, I like to hand-make gifts out of origami. It was a childhood hobby I began again when I got sober. I love this art form. It feels like meditation, folding the paper over and again, transforming a square piece of paper into a box or a bird. Sure, sometimes I get frustrated and scrunch it up and throw it across the room, but usually I persevere. Christmas wasn't always my favorite holiday. Our family wasn't perfect by any means, but that day always felt perfect to me. We would decorate the tree and make our family specialty, eggnog French toast. In 2016, that all changed. That Christmas, my parents moved up to the Northwest, and I found myself completely alone. I remember feeling so empty that day as I cuddled Toby, my rescue dog, who actually rescued me. It felt like hitting rock bottom all over again. I felt that same hopelessness, desperation, and emptiness as I had felt 7 years before. But I had my Toby, the best friend I've ever had to lick away my tears. With him, I was determined not to resort to drugs or alcohol like I would have in the past. I cuddled Toby that holiday and thought about how I ended up here. God, I wish my parents were with me. Like I said, our family wasn't perfect. In fact, I started attending Al-Anon as a teenager on account of my dad's alcoholism. But I ended up using in high school. I got sober and went to college at UC Santa Cruz, where I got a degree in psychology. But after graduation, aimless, I started drinking again until I was kicked out of my living situation and forced to move back in with my parents. It was horrible. I was horrible. For most of my 20s, I was the absolute worst alcoholic, and trust me, I've known a lot of alcoholics. I remember being suicidal because I had never felt so lost or such utter hopelessness. With nothing to do, nowhere to go, and no sense of safety, I felt constantly afraid, and homelessness was more than I could handle. I was in and out of hospitals, hotels, sober living places, you name it. After being hospitalized or institutionalized a dozen times to detox or because of another suicide attempt, I learned that my drinking helped me cope with undiagnosed bipolar disorder. In total, I experienced 7 chaotic years with bouts of homelessness. That's the time it took between when I moved back home and when I received my mental health diagnosis. Eventually, I found the right medication and received Section 8 housing. Actually, I was fast-tracked to receive Section 8, another gift, because I don't know what would have happened to me otherwise. My poor parents, I wouldn't be alive today without them. They never gave up on me, even when I gave up on myself. Nothing has been perfect, though. I have lost my housing 3 times due to domestic violence and police calls. I was always afraid, especially that Christmas, that I would end up homeless all over again. But little by little, small miracle after small miracle, with Toby by my side, I put myself back together again. And I like who I am now. Sometimes when fear or depression does creep in, and I don't feel like I have the strength to go on, I can always muster the strength because of my dog. It may sound silly, but who else would take care of my cranky, antisocial best friend if I weren't around? One thing that I found really helps me is to meditate. Every day my parents and I meditate on Zoom together. It grounds us and keeps us connected to each other. It gives me hope and peace. Makes me feel lucky even. And I've started to like Christmas again. It's not my favorite day of the year, but there are still things I really enjoy. My parents and I open our presents together on Zoom, and each year I send them a new piece of handmade origami artwork. My favorite piece to make and give away is called kusadama, which is a Japanese medicine ball. The kusadama promotes health, happiness, and peace. With sobriety and 10 years of permanent affordable housing behind me, I feel like my health, happiness, and peace are true gifts. And so I want to share that gift with you because I think we are all worthy of and deserving of these things. In closing, I want to share that this story is another gift. I watch the news and cry nearly every day because I can tap into the sadness and the chaos of the world. But I don't want to just cry. I want to reach people so they don't feel so alone, like I did. Through SpeakUp, I can be a part of the solution and help bring more miracles to others. Thank you for listening. My name is Lindsay Dennis, and I am your neighbor.
Hi, graduates. I'm Susan Kolkowitz. I'm a CSH SpeakUp advocate, just like you. And I'm so excited to be celebrating your achievement with you today. I was very excited and happy when Anne asked me to make some comments, closing remarks for your graduation. I, like you, experienced homelessness, and like you, I tapped into inner resilience and strength that we all have had to survive those times and to keep moving forward, and eventually finding that right um, magic, that right formula, that right combination of resources and people who, through working together, we're able to make permanent supportive housing a reality for ourselves. You know, finally having a place to start healing, a base of operations to start regaining our lives. And yet, I found that I felt empty and that I really had a need to give back, to help the people that I'd left behind, who were still out there, still homeless, experiencing homelessness, still not safe and inside, and found advocacy to help with that. And I know that's why you are all in training, why you've all graduated from it, is because, like myself, we want to help the others who are still out there. And my path to advocacy came through, I heard about a training program that would to become a peer support specialist. And one aspect of that training was having to do an internship. I was really volunteering at a homeless services provider in the area. So I selected the Downtown Women's Center, and I was volunteering, and then I started working there in their permanent supportive housing, and I was working with about 119 women at different sites, and it still felt like there's something was needed. And I spoke to one of the staff and heard about another advocacy organization, the Domestic Violence Homeless Services Coalition. And through going to those meetings and working with those advocates, I heard about the CSH SpeakUp program. And that training that you've just gone through really made the difference for me. Really kind of like it's the start of my real advocacy. Learning about yourself, learning how to tell your story, those things were really important to me and gave me the confidence to share. And what I learned through this process was, as you having to redo your story and learning how to tell stories and sharing more and more of what your experience had been, I I learned something really valuable, which was that the things that had been the most difficult for me to accept about what I'd been through, the things I had the most shame about, through telling the story, through advocacy and through telling that story, became healing. And it was the things I was the most ashamed of actually became meaningful, brought meaning in my life, and was able to help others through telling of the story. And how did it help others? And this you'll see and find out if you haven't already. It allows the listener to gain compassion and to see the folks that are experiencing homelessness as people. Through our stories, through our experience, they see us as very real people who had something bad happen to us and that are worthy of being treated with the humanity, the dignity that needs to happen to change the current situation. So the other thing that happens is as I gain confidence, and I'm sure as you gain confidence speaking and telling your story, you meet people and you hear about things. And Anne and the other folks in CSH start forwarding opportunities to advocate to you. I have done some interesting work. I've learned a lot more about how government works and how policies affecting the folks who are experiencing homelessness, where they come from. I've worked on with city council members, LA City Council, the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, even the federal government, the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness. The California Policy Lab, I'm on their advisory board. On an advisory board for these organizations, it's amazing. And they are desperate to have people who know how to tell the story, who have an experience that can bring reality to their policies, to their efforts. We're going to do that. We do that, and you're going to be doing that soon. And you'll be changing people's lives. That's the amazing thing. We influence the folks who have the power to make these policies and to formulate them into laws. And they need us and they need you. And I'm so excited that you're going to be experiencing these opportunities. We're going to be working together. I know it. And I just want to say congratulations to Sage, Triana, John, L.A., Gloria, Michelle, Lisa, Lindsay, Tony, and Corey. Welcome aboard. Welcome to you. I can't wait to meet you, and I can't wait to work with you. Congratulations. You deserve it. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much for joining us to celebrate these stories. I hope that as you make your way in the world, you will remember and share them with others. We can change our systems only when we truly listen to and understand the people at the center of these systems. It's really past time for us to reimagine our world as one that acknowledges systems failures and refuses to advantage those with resources over those without. Our sincerest hope at CSH Speak Up is to change the narrative of homelessness, one story at a time. If you'd like to learn more about Speak Up, or maybe even think about volunteering as a story coach, please go to www.csh.org/speakup. Have a brilliant day. Be well.